obviously the big news this morning is that Asia Wilson is the unanimous MVP in this league. I mean, a ridiculous season, like across the board statistically. Like this is one of the greatest seasons that we've ever seen. So like I don't think anyone can be mad at the fact that she is the MVP.
Andrew's raising his hand.
I am interested. Andrew, go just take it away.
I just, before we get into the actual award talk here, I want to contextualize what happened this morning because I work in television full time. I can tell you exactly how that choice was made. This was not a scenario of the WNBA not properly marketing itself and not properly marketing Asia Wilson. The reality is the playoffs are on ESPN ABC. The first day of the playoffs was today. GMA, Good Morning America, is an ABC product. So the corporate, like the way shit works from a corporate perspective in television news is we want to push products from this audience on this channel over to this audience on this channel. So the goal by putting her on Sunday morning is to get the GMA viewers, who typically are not sports viewers, mind you. They want to get the GMA viewer to want to tune in to the ABC and ESPN slate of games, all 4 of them that run today. On top of that, we have to address the 800-pound gorilla in the room. It's NFL Sunday. And yes, the slate of games stunk today. Absolutely stunk in the National Football League. The 3 WNBA games weren't really all that much better if we're going to keep it up. But the reality is you do not fight the 800-pound gorilla. You know, like this is Harambe versus the kid in the enclosure. This is not a scenario in which you go up on the gorilla and be like, hey, I think I'm stronger than you are. No, every business in America knows you don't fuck with the NFL. So you have a small window before the games start to try and at least take some of the narrative and some of the discussion and some of the Twitter discourse and some of the energy away from the NFL. And when can you do that before the games even start? You have a GMA product that is a network product on the morning show on Sundays before people go to church. That's when you want to get people. So when they come out of church, they remember that interview, they go to those games. And so that's why they did it the way they did it. And there are a lot of different times and scenarios where you can say the WNBA does not market things properly, or there is a agenda from the league to try and elevate certain players or certain narratives over others. There's a legit thing, but you can't cry wolf every time you hear something going, like you can't do that. You can't because sometimes what happens is you look stupid by crying wolf on this. This is a television choice. And if it doesn't matter to you because you don't watch TV and you're terminally online, you're not the intended audience. And that's what folks need to understand when we see this internet discourse go out is like, there's a whole big world out there. And there's a lot of big TV money out there. And there's a lot of decisions that are driven not by what's happening in this little pocket on Twitter. It's decided over here where the ad money is on television. That's why they put Asia Wilson there. And that's why you're seeing now in between the 2 games here, or the 3 games in one, while we're in between the afternoon and the Sunday night football slate, you have this press conference happening right as we speak for Asia to get the unanimous MVP honor from Kathy Engelbert in Las Vegas.
But see, okay, so and I get that, right? But like as a staunch Asia supporter, I watched. She got like her first time getting it was like in the Wnba or whatever. They like did it live and they filmed her reaction. The second time we get it, you know, again like we're getting filmed reactions. Last year we get this like random primetime like surprise Beyonce self-titled album drop of Defensive Player of the Year, and so like when we heard she got Defensive Player of the Year, we all knew that Stewie got MVP. So I'm saying like the league, like that decision and everything makes sense. And I'm sure that went into it. But like for me, having watched how the league has done MVP every year, where there's like little to no rhyme or reason of what they're doing and how they roll it out, it looks sus. Like it really does look sus. So I'm kind of like, I don't care about Good Morning America. I didn't know it came on Sundays. Like, why is she the year that she gets the unanimous one? after she got robbed of the one last year, why is that being now at the butt crack of dawn? So that's where I'm kind of like, it would make more sense if the league didn't have a history of doing goofy stuff.
That's fair. I think that's a reasonable argument to make. I think the hard thing here is that if you were to ask the folks at the WNBA or at ABC, ESPN, they would tell, or their answer would be, we actually are making the effort to put her front and center because we're putting her on the biggest network show on morning television across the country by having her in that
and that's fair, but like I didn't know she was even on there though. Like I saw a tweet or something saying she had a quote on there, but like I didn't see any clips from Good Morning America. I didn't know she was on there. So like I get that, and if this league had a history of doing right by its players, particularly when it comes to her, I would be able to agree with that and say like, okay, I can see like we did something different, but like I see the intention here. But like we randomly popped up when Jesus got up on Easter and said, oh, here's our MVP. Like when was the deadline even? Like that's what I kind of want to know, because like the deadline keeps changing from year to year. So now we're getting it in this little pocket that does make sense logically based on what you said. But like to a fan, I'm still like, what are we doing?
That's fair. I think that's reasonable. I'm curious to see what they do tomorrow. And if there is something refreshed tomorrow on GMA when you get the Monday morning crowd too. Because if they win, and they've already had this ABC News exclusive with her, that's still recyclable content that can go into the next day. But
then it's not really newsworthy though. Because like if we've already had the blowout and we had all the graphics before church, then football happens, then the playoffs happen, then they actually play in a game. I don't want to see it on Monday morning because it's not fresh news. So it might be kind of fresh because I didn't see it on Sunday, but it's not like timeliness. Like if you're not going to get her on Monday morning because they have a game at 10 o'clock tonight, Eastern time. So I feel like it makes sense. I don't like it. Yeah, I hear you. I don't like it.
I think that's reasonable. The thing that I'm curious to find out, and I'm like kind of searching through, so I'll mute myself for a sec while you guys talk it through, is who made the first announcement. Because I saw that ESPNW had the announcement at like 6 a.m. Mountain Time, so like 8 a.m. Eastern.
It might have been either ESPN or the team.
Gotcha.
Those were the
okay.
I think it was ESPN.
Yeah, I don't know. I was recovering from SEC tailgate. I woke up to it.
Okay, this guy is finally legal.
This means more now. But Andrew, while you're searching that up, I guess I think the whole conversation really about MVP has been not if Asia Wilson's going to win it as much as is she going to be unanimous. Now we know she is unanimous. I don't really know how to word it exactly, but like I guess
should she have been unanimous?
Are we okay with this? Like are we okay with the standard of unanimous? Like that this is the standard of unanimous? Because you don't really, like just go to like the NBA W comparison, but like we in the NBA side, like we had Steph and like that, and that was it.
What I'll say about that is there have been other years in the NBA where a player has won MVP and missed like one first place vote where it like should have been unanimous for them as well, right? So like Steph obviously has that unique distinction, but there have been other campaigns in the NBA that were just as worthy of being unanimous, right? Maybe their team didn't win 73 games, but their team was still the number one seed or something like that, right? So not apples to apples, either.
Right? Right.
And then we're talking about a 30-team league versus a 12-team league.
Yep.
I don't have to make any, like, we know who I root for in this league, I kind of limping to fourth is just kind of crazy to me for unanimous. It's just kind of crazy to me. When you have 3 other Olympians on your team.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, like, she should have won it this year, for sure, hands down. But I think a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but this sets a precedent for the future. So that's where I'm kind of like, I'm okay with it not being unanimous. Now, I was okay with it being unanimous because I feel like she got robbed completely last year. Like, you created a narrative for Stewie that involved those 4 40-point games, 2 of which were against the Indiana Fever without Caitlin Clark, 1 of which came in overtime because Aaliyah Boston hit a 3 to tie the game up. 1 was against the Dallas Wings, and I don't even remember who the 4th one was, but like Asia scored 53 points and led them to a championship. And we see Stewie shoot 17% in the playoffs when they really need her. So that's where I'm kind of like, this seemed like a get back from last year. And I don't like that, because if you had done right last year, we could actually do right this year. So now she still would win if she was playing this way. But like, now she's back-to-back MVP. And we don't have to have these discussions of like, oh, she has to be unanimous because she's owed this. And it's like, why is she owed this? What did y'all do last year? What happened? What went wrong? Because she was playing out of her mind. But like, now we're going to have these discussions in the future because, again, it is a 4th seed. And again, I'm a Russell Westbrook fan. I don't care about no standings. I don't care about standings. I just care about consistent dialogue. So I don't want us to get to a point where now we're talking about this in the future and people want to act like ratings matter sometimes and they don't matter. Like, I think there needs to be consistent standards. Having said that, still, I win. Like, above all, I never not win. Like, unanimous MVP. And I want to talk about the other rankings because somebody was 4th in the voting and then somebody was like 2 places below them. And I'm going to tell you that 4th place vote was Caitlin Clark. Because after Olympic break, y'all started trying to tell me that Sabrina had a strong case and was like right behind Asia, and it's close and she's the best player on the best team. And then I started posting them screenshots. I should be up for Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going to tell you this right now. We should have ran my campaign, because once I started posting the screenshots and started showing y'all exactly what she's been doing, scoring 18 points in the first half and 0 in the second half, her campaign fell off a cliff. They was talking about Sabrina for most improved player, which we're going to get to in a second. But like, that was embarrassing. But like, that MVP campaign came and went so fast. And now you're still trying to tell me that she should be 1st team over Caitlin. Like, no, I told y'all. And if you would believe me the first time, y'all wouldn't be embarrassed when them standings came out, because the voters knew what was up. They saw the screenshots.
They saw the highlights. The attention was drawn where it needed to be.
I think she was a unanimous MVP this year. This might be a Zag take. My issue is the narrative around unanimity, because we did a lot of, like you said, Shawnee, a lot of this is in retribution for that 4th place vote. And what I don't like is that voting now has to be, and it's always been partisan within the sport, right? Like, let's not pretend like look at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Like, this shit is
right
in some way across every sport. But I do think that and this is something that I have a lot of trouble with Asia in general, we center everybody else in her damn story. Like, when we, like, this whole year, and people have said, oh, Asia can't keep, Caitlin Clark's name out of her mouth in the Marie Claire interview and all these other ones. People are asking her, and, granted, she's taking the bait, but like, they're asking her these things. So they're centering another person in her story. In the MVP stuff, we're centering Stewie in her story last year and this year, because this year it's all about 4th place revenge. But what does that go back to? That goes back to Stewie winning an MVP. It doesn't have anything to do with the fact that Asia has put together the best season in league history. That in itself is enough. It shouldn't have to do with any of this other shit that makes her a unanimous MVP. It should simply be on the merit of, this is the best player in the world, the best player in the league, who's put the best player, or who's put together the best season in the history of the league. But everyone, including her own fans and her own stands, and like, all of her people's desire to center other folks in her story is my issue. And I get why. I get the frustration of the perception that others get while you don't get. And some of the feeling there that there is not equity and equality at work here. But my belief is always that it dilutes your story because now your story is about someone else or about something.
Mhm.
And that was my problem with the voting framing this year, is because it after a certain point, especially as we got later into the year here and started having these discussions about should Fee even garner a first place vote at all, it started to become this, well, here we go. Everyone's finding another reason. This is just like last year. This is fourth place all over again. No, man, Asia has given everybody more than enough material to argue her on the merit.
Mhm.
You don't have to argue about any other thing. Like the entirety of her unanimous MVP case this year is that resume was stamped over and over and over this year. That team might be an 8 seed if she is not playing for them. And so I am of the belief that the dialogue around her has similarly been all sorts of nasty, just because everybody, including Asia's most fervent supporters, who would probably disagree massively with this, but everyone is centering everybody else but her.
And it's lazy journalism.
I don't care about Caitlyn. I don't care about Sabrina in this context. In this context, it's about Asia Wilson, and that's it. That's all it should be, and all it should have been this year when talking about MVP.
Yeah.
But that requires you finding a story, because I wrote about this in 5 Out. Like, my concern was people were not telling her story. They were making it like, oh, the fourth place vote. Like, okay, but like, what did she do after that fourth place vote? Because she had like a broken wrist or something. Like, remember, the Aces looked like wounded warriors when they went to that parade. There was so much limping and crutches and scooters and casts. Like, there's a story there, and nobody was telling it. I just kept hearing like, she's great, she's great, she's great, she's great, she's great. How great? Like, how did we get here? What did she do differently? What is she doing to add to her back? What, like, we've seen different moments of, her journey where she's at her lowest point, where her team's having to cover her after that loss to Phoenix. And she's like, red-faced in the press conference. She had a moment where she said, like, sometimes I hate being Asia Wilson. I was like, what do you mean by that? Where is that coming from? And we're not actually diving into her story and telling, like, what makes her her. We're just saying she's great. Her teammates love her. She's great. Her teammates love her. She loves her teammates. She's great. She's great. She's great. And I'm like, okay, but like, when we look back on things, it's like 9 different people writing books on Caitlin Clark and documenting what's been going on since that, when she beat South Carolina till like now. People are not doing the work and adequately documenting like what Asia Wilson is doing and how she is elevating this franchise and how she is elevating this league. And that's the part that's bothering me. Like, we can say she's great and she can be in all of these commercials, but tell the story.
Bro, this is a hero's journey if Braun never left Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Like, realistically, that's what this is. Like, from getting blocked by BG to being in an organization where the question was, like, the Aces were low-key the Connecticut Sun there for a couple years, where it was like, you have all of these.
Don't you dare. No, because Asia's rookie year, she was right there with the Liz Cambage, Skylar Diggins, Dallas Wings. They were fighting for that last spot. Second year, she runs into who is it? EDD. Third year, we get Phoenix. Then I'm getting my years confused, but yeah, Stewie, Wubble, yeah. And then now we're getting those matchups where she's going against like the greatest, and then we get over the hump and become the greatest. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that right there. Take me from the beginning. Yeah, like, we're using Jackie Young as a decoy that nobody believes. Start at that moment and tell the story. What did we do differently to get here? Like, it's making me really mad. And then to someone's point in the chat, like, just because we mention other people in the MVP race does not mean that we didn't mean they should win. Where I'm coming from, because I saw this, the homie tweeted this. He was like, I don't say people are in the MVP race to come in second. And I was like, well, there has to be 3 finals. Like that. That's just it. There needs to be. There's
5 players. It is no matter how far along the first place is. It's still a race.
That's it.
Across the finish line is, and that's the part that I think has bothered me a lot. Like, I completely agree with all that you guys have said. In addition to that, has been kind of the discourse surrounding the race in the sense of, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but like I felt like the argument was like with Fee specifically and kind of the first, second place, it could have very easily been Fee is having this MVP season. Here's what Asia is doing that makes this an all-time season. And
bingo.
that's what really lacked to me, because in any other year, like we said earlier, Fee is the MVP. And it's there's not many years where I feel like it'd be very close, frankly. Like with this roster, with the expectation, with the performance she's had, Asia Wilson has just had one of the greatest, if not the greatest season of all time. And yet we haven't been able to have that type of dialogue because it's been, I felt more of minimizing the others in the race as opposed to showing how far the lead is for Asia. And that's the part that
You don't have to tear others down to build somebody
We're
up.
all about positivity here.
Celebrate that 2 rookies were on that peak performance.
Like, that's crazy.
You can like, come on, since 08, in 16 years, we have not had rookies have this kind of impact. Like, there's so much in this season to be proud of if you're a WNBA fan. Tina, Dewana, DT, the rookie, like there's so
from
much
all different age generations, like teams.
Thank you for saving the league, not you, Sabrina. From everything.
that's the thing where it's like you have all these things, and Asia Wilson has still set herself apart this year. And that's where I think also within the storytelling aspect of this, we've missed on how we got here, and now that we are here, I feel like we're missing on just how insane this is. Besides saying this is insane. Like no one is contextualizing this in comparison to what else we're seeing in the league right now, which is a shit ton of greatness around the league right now.
This is the most history-breaking season ever, and
easily
most of what we've been talking about is ratings, ticket prices, and shit like that.
That's not even getting into statistics that are being broken, like the records. Like the whole record book better have been written in pencil because this year got written in pen. Like it is insane about what has been done this year, and I feel like there's been a relative failure in order to do so in the way that the discourse has gone down. And it could have just been so much more productive in the way that we've done it. And all that to say, like, I am like, I feel like we saw the votes today, the numbers, and like pretty much everyone had Asia first, Fee second, Stewie third, Caitlin fourth. Like that was relatively
WNBA like Zeus instead of Nat Geo. And that's the problem. That's the problem. Like when we talk about, I mean, it's a systemic thing, right? Like we saw the ticket price discourse earlier today too, and it's just like women are already paid less than men. Why is it a bad thing that people are enjoying a luxury experience and paying more than they've ever had to before?
I think that's what everybody is like missing. Like, this is still entertainment. This is a luxury item. This is not something that is like housing where it should be, we don't need UBI for basketball. Like that's not included in that. Like if you got it, you got it. And it sucks, but like that's capitalism. That is literally capitalism. So we're operating within this structure.
Gotta pay money to make money too. Like that.
If we say like we want it to be treated like a real league and not like a charity, I can
understand the frustration, and if you feel it's been too much of an increase, like
that's the thing.
But ultimately, like this is every sport. Like it's postseason. Like this is what happens. Like I do.
Kamala, take notes.
Kamala Harris, what is your policy to solve WNBA postseason ticket prices?